This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
It's Jerett Diaz, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on your Tuesday Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. And of course, your host, James J, alongside Scooter Dust.
I'm the reason the rum is always gone.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the closer, the suntan Superman, the Bodega Boy, Jerett Diaz.
What's going on, guys? How we doing? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you, Jerett?
I'm spectacular.
And where can we see the Bodega Boy next?
Well, first of all, you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at the Jerett Diaz. You can catch me there anytime. I'm posting constantly. In terms of appearances, I am at Victory Pro Wrestling in Long Island on May 6th. CZW Limelight, I think 16. CZW Limelight 16 on May 7th out in Havre de Grace, Maryland. On May 20th, I'm at New Age Wrestling in Springfield, Massachusetts. And from the 25th to the 28th, I am in Las Vegas with Future Stars Wrestling, part of Full Tilt 2 Double or Nothing weekend for a series of events, a series of appearances that I am extremely excited for. It's my third time going out to Vegas, so I am over the moon about that one, guys.
That's awesome. And what can we find merchandise as well?
Sorry, say that again?
Where can we find merchandise as well?
Oh, we can find merchandise at fullygimmick.com, where my t-shirts live. You can also contact me directly for my newest line of merch.
All right. And
which is not yet on Fully Gimmicked.
And you don't even have to go looking. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
See, you have it all figured. You have it all figured out.
Yes. Now let's get into it. You work for CCW, one of the bigger promotions on the indies today. Can you tell us about your relationship with the company and DJ Hyde?
Sure. So my initial introduction to CZW as a fan was seeing guys like Eddie Kingston or John Moxley, to the Adam Coles, MJF, Jason Cades, Mia Yims of the world. A lot of who you see on television today at some point have gone through CZW. So, as I continued my career as a wrestler, from moving from Florida up to New York during the pandemic and coming out of there looking to, I guess, establish myself in the Northeast, I come across Combat Zone Wrestling, hosting effectively a combine weekend, a tryout weekend, looking for new talent to bring in as the brand goes through, or as the company goes through a sort of rebranding, right? Sort of trying to revitalize what CZW can be. And I go to the combine weekend. I meet DJ Hyde in person. We have a long conversation after I performed very well at the combine, and I'd like to think that over the last year, have been a big part of the CZW rebrand. We started running shows at Havre de Grace in the State Theater down in Maryland, where we maybe had 20-something people at the shows. And the last few have been completely sold out, turning people away at the door. We also have Best of the Best coming up on May 20th, which I'm very excited about, with incredible talent, people like Myron Reed, O'Shea Edwards, Alex Kane coming to the town. Alex Kane, who just won Battle Riot for MLW. Shout out Alex. Some incredible coming in talent for Best of the Best. So CCW is looking to be once again a premier location for premier talent.
You tried out for CCW in January, right?
Yes, that would be late January 2022.
That's crazy. I believe I actually talked to DJ about that tryout when I had him on.
Yeah, so he's been in charge of the brand for some time now, and after the pandemic hit a lot of companies hard, he has been a real charge behind growing the company once again, which he should be because it's his baby.
Yeah. All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned CCW. I would be remiss if I left out the fact that I would carpool with Larry Legend to not the CCW events, but NYWC events when he was ring announcing. Then I took over ring announcing, but I think another part of CCW. And my nephew.
Great guy, Larry Legend.
Oh, absolutely. And my nephew happens to work for VPW.
Okay, well, I'm sure I'll see him on the 6th.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't met him already in your previous VPW experience. Okay. You know, let's get into a little personal story.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
No, too early for that bit, James. How did it feel to return to your elementary school and compete as a pro wrestler there?
Oh man, well I've been blessed enough to do it twice now with We Are Wrestling. Initially in the Welcome to the Bronx Rumble, and then most recently on my birthday, no less, teaming with AEW superstar Sky Blue in a mixed tag team match against Lucas Chase and Ruthless Lala. I will tell you that the second time was even more fulfilling than the first. As great as the first felt to really return back to that gym where I spent hours playing as a child, the second time was even more special because I got to do it on my birthday in front of my friends and family, sharing the ring with people I care about, and the ability to wrestle in front of the people that you care about in this industry is very rare. Wrestling in New York as a New Yorker has only gotten harder since the pandemic. So being able to do that in the Bronx in my very own elementary school was definitely an emotional experience. But then you got to remember too, that you're there to do your job. You're there to go try and win a match, and you have to compete and perform. And for a little while, you sort of block out the noise and the distractions of all of the sentiment. I was lucky enough to perform well, win that match, and then it all started sinking in what I had just accomplished.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great feeling. I do have to say though, you said you're from the Bronx. I think we're gonna have to end it here because I'm from Queens. That means you and I are natural rivals.
Hey, you can have your rivalry with me all you want. I like Queens. When the pandemic hit and I moved from Florida back to New York, I lived in Queens for about a year, down in Astoria, right over the bridge. I did like Queens, but it's not the Bronx. I'm sorry to say, you don't have to cross the bridge just to get into it.
Well, I've got 40, almost 40 years here, and almost the center of Queens, I'd say, right by the LIE in Fresh Meadows. Nobody remember that. James.
Yeah, going back to CCW, you wrestled JT Dunn, who was an alumni from CCW, obviously the owner of Chaotic Wrestling, Big name on the independents. Can you tell us about that match and that experience?
I would love to. So, and I was just thinking about this the other day because he called he did play-by-play commentary or color commentary rather on a match I had at Fight Life about 2 weeks ago up in Rhode Island. And I met JT Dunn. I met JT Dunn at an XWA event in late 2021 where he was a veteran. He was the main event on the show, and I was wrestling Myron Reed. And this was the first time that I had properly ever wrestled a name, an indie guy on the independents in my career. And so I remember, talking to JT Dunn a little bit just when I had met him, and he just gave me some nice encouragement. And then I don't see him for about 8 months as XWA sort of stopped operations shortly after. But I see him in Las Vegas, and he remembers me even far better than I could remember him. And I remember him bringing me over to Sammy Callahan, who runs Pro Wrestling Revolver,
Yeah.
and making sure that I got a chance to meet and speak with him because he had nothing but good things to say about me to Sammy right in front of my face. Fast forward another few months, and it's just every time I see JT is giving me words of advice, throwing down wisdom, giving me feedback on matches, and making sure that I was turning out to be as talented as he thought I could be. So when I get the call to wrestle JT Dunn at Chaotic, which is a place that I love to perform at, but don't do it as often as I could, or even as I should, I was over the moon, and I took it right away. Right? If I'm told, hey, you have an opportunity to go wrestle JT Dunn at Chaotic Wrestling, I'm going to take it every time. And look, I gave him my best shot. I would have loved to have more time to prepare it. I did only have about 2 days notice before I went and wrestled JT. So, the opportunity to potentially watch more film and prepare for the guy, because he is one of the most talented wrestlers in the industry, independent or otherwise. But then after that, even coming out of that match where he paid me respect in the ring and allowed me a moment to just settle into what we had accomplished, since then it's only been further encouragement, further preparation, and making sure that he's holding me up to a certain standard, to where when I had this match with Lucas Chase and I didn't perform as well as I could have, JT was the first one in the back telling me, hey, this is what you could have done better. This is how you could have performed more proficiently, right? So the opportunity to wrestle JT, exceptional. But coming out of wrestling JT, that relationship becomes even stronger.
That's awesome. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say he was a part of a 2023 list you made earlier this year of a list of wrestlers you'd like to wrestle. Do you mind
Correct.
if I say who's on the list?
Please, go for it.
J.D. Drake, Rick Swan, Jose Edwards, The Jordan, Titus Alexander, Morgan Stone, J.T. Dunn, please check that one out. Danny Limelight, Robert Martel, Grego Del Sol, Jordan Oliver, Anthony Green, Ron Bass Jr., Chris Bay. Um, yeah, there's two more, but I can't see them.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it. I got you. Flash Waller and Eddie Kingston.
There you go.
So a few of those matches can very well happen just next month in Las Vegas.
Right.
I know I'm going to be on shows with Titus Alexander and Limelight and Martyr and Oliver. These are guys I'm definitely trying to run it up with. Rich Swan, O'Shea Edwards, Flip Gordon. These are friends. These are guys that I respect and admire and have been and Chris Bay as well, who I look up to, ask for advice, and want to beat up. So these are all matches that I really want to have, that I look forward to having, even if I don't have them in 2023, because there are a lot of names, there are a lot of places, and you can only be in one place at a time. Even if it doesn't happen all in 2023, these are names that are going to carry over to next year if I'm not able to wrestle them this year. And they'll remain on those lists until they get signed or retire.
Definitely. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility you can't cross a good majority of those names in a year.
It's entirely plausible. It's really just a matter of wrestling promoters around the country who are willing to put these matches together, and I'll lobby for them the best I can. And I even O'Shea Edwards coming to CZW to be a part of the best. That was a part of something that I was putting together. That's something that I've been championing as a friend and admirer of O'Shea's work.
Okay. Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Now, you've people know about Full Sail University and its relationship with the WWE, and they know it just by that alone. But you actually went to Full Sail University, and you actually graduated with a degree in sportscasting. Can you tell us about what that was like and what made you pursue that?
I did, absolutely. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? You know about Full Sail because of its relationship with WWE if you're in the wrestling industry, right? I am a fan of wrestling. I've always been a fan of wrestling, and when WWE started running NXT shows at Full Sail, it moved to my radar. But I wasn't just familiar with Full Sail as a university because of WWE. See, I played football in college. I played football through my life into college, and I was also a fan of football and sports broadcasting as a whole. So the namesake of Full Sail Sports Broadcasting Program is Dan Patrick, a legendary sports broadcaster. I believe he's still running a show on NBC Sports. I'm not entirely sure about that, but he's a legendary name. It's like saying, hey, this is the Triple H wrestling school, effectively. So I was familiar with the school, I was familiar with the program, and when I knew I was done playing football and I wanted to get my degree, I thought to myself, all right, I want a degree in a certain specific department, right? A certain specific focus, but I also am ready to transition to wrestling, and I want to work with WWE in some capacity. Can I make these things work together? And I made it all work together. I moved down to Florida. I signed up for the school. I got into the school. While I was attending Full Sail in its initial couple of months, I was speaking to my program director pretty frequently about some way for the sports broadcasters to work with WWE. And I kept being told, hey, something's in the works, just be patient. Something's in the works, just be patient. And I say, okay, I'll be patient. Right? Check in. Eventually, I'm told, hey, there's a WWE internship that we're going to be starting up with our broadcasters here. Give us another month. We're going to start interviewing students to be a part of the internship. They let me know when the internship interview becomes. I'm the first person interviewed. I'm the first person hired. I get the call that I'm hired for the internship before I even made it back home. So I found a way to make wrestling, broadcasting, and college all work for me. Following that, I spent the next 6 months in the Performance Center 2 to 3 times a week, learning all of the on-camera, non-wrestling roles, that being your on-air play-by-play, your commentary, the in-ring announcer, your live event hosts, panel hosts, backstage interviewers. All of the roles that aren't wrestler were the things that I was learning in school and at the internship. And then, at that same time, I was learning my wrestling training. I was at various wrestling schools training and following my cousin Jason Cade around to basically learn how to be a wrestler. So I was doing it all at once. And then I was also blessed enough to be in the Performance Center. So I would talk to Byron Saxton, Drew Gulak, Cassius Ohno, Adam Cole, Keith Lee, about what made them so talented, so good, so successful in their industries. And they were all generous enough to share bits of information, tips for me to get better. So I was lucky enough to, in a 6-month period of wrestling school while 6 months at the Performance Center, basically learn a year's worth of wrestling, which put me ahead of the game.
Oh, and I'm going to piggyback off that into this question. There's a picture on your Instagram of you and now I'm assuming the other interns in the Performance Center in front of the Performance Center sign. Or is that that's a Tron? What day was that? And are there any other faces we would recognize in that photo?
So that was the final day of the internship, and what we did on the final day of the internship was basically perform a mock NXT show. So it was called WWE PC Live, where I did the color commentating for the show, acting as a heel commentator. The main event match was Raul Mendoza, now known as Cruz
Del Toro.
Yes, Cruz Del Toro, versus Adam Cole for the WWE PC. No, I'm sorry. It was Ridge Holland versus Austin Theory for the WWE PC Championship. So I called commentary on an Austin Theory match before he made his proper NXT debut, which is a little feather in my cap. But that day was effectively a bit of a tryout for all of the interns to do the thing that they did best during the internship and see if it would put them in good standing with WWE. Some of the other people that were a part of the internship, and I believe they're in the photo as well. Tom Phillips was very hands-on. He was running the broadcast team as a whole at the time.
The only one wearing jeans.
Yes. Well, he wasn't a part of the show, so he was sort of hanging out. Caleb Braxton and Alicia Taylor were both very hands-on. I know Caleb still does backstage stuff, and Alicia is the in-ring announcer for NXT, and she's fantastic. Johnny LaQuasto was in the photo as well. He's no longer with WWE, but for a while he was doing main event as play-by-play. He was doing 205 Live as play-by-play with Aiden English as well. There were a lot of hands-on, generous with their time despite the hectic WWE schedule staff members, not just as those broadcasters, but the people who would tape our internship sessions, the people who would ingest that data and send us all the videos so that we can self-feedback. I cannot say enough good things about WWE during this internship because they did not have to do it. They went out of their way.
In 2019, I believe, was Pat Buck still, where's the Grand NXT?
I believe Buck, he was not with NXT. I believe he was a road agent at the time already. Yeah. So he was more on the road as a producer. But my history coming from initially training at Creative Pro has benefited me in that I already knew Pat Buck. So nowadays when I go to AEW Dark, I'm able to get a little extra feedback from him, which is great.
And Pat Buck trained me.
That makes sense.
As did Mikey, Alex, John, Reynolds, and Tony, who everybody says I'm a fatter Tony, and I believe them. James, let's throw it back to you before I embarrass myself.
I just had a follow-up question to doing commentary for, the PC show.
Sure.
What do you want doing commentary at the highest level? Obviously WWE that helped you in your own career.
So I can give you two things, especially from the perspective of a wrestler. One of them being when you are a commentator versus when you are a wrestler. When you're a commentator, you are often just as in the dark as your audience. And if you want something perceived in a specific way, you have to make it very clear so that the commentator can now see it and put it over on commentary. So, for example, if I'm the heel in a match and I have a sort of subtle cutoff that I do, right, to bring the babyface back down to a point where I'm now beating him up, that cutoff needs to be very it can't be so subtle. It needs to be pretty big, very clear, so that not only the audience surrounding the ring can see it, but the commentator who's translating all this information to however many people that are watching the broadcast are able to see it as well. That's the first thing. Secondly, and it's a tip that was often reiterated in the Performance Center, but I think it initially comes from Scott Hall, and it's the less you do in the ring, the more commentary has to talk about you. right? So instead of just calling moves, instead of those commentators calling moves, they're now talking about the character, the persona that is in that ring. Those are a couple things that I took from commentary that I'm able to establish as a competitor.
But considering, right, James and I started a alternate commentary podcast a number of years ago, to give the fans an alternate means if they didn't want to hear, the WWE.
Sure.
And then a number of years later, I was lucky enough to have James come in, and right now it's in hiatus. But I think after listening to that, I think that's I think the hiatus is ending.
I mean, yeah, look, it's a great note because ultimately the commentator's job is to put over the stars in the ring. The commentator's job is to highlight the action. So anything that you can do in the ring to make their job easier ultimately just makes you look better.
Oh yeah.
As a wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Now on to another question. You work in Germany. Obviously a very different culture over there. What was that experience like?
Oh, my German experience was amazing. I was able to work with WXW, which is probably the most respected promotion in Europe. It was an outstanding experience from working with the people who are running it, the actual staff, to performing for those German fans and European fans in general. People did travel in from Hungary, from England, from Italy, from Spain, all to Germany for that weekend. I was a part of the Super Tag League weekend, I believe it's called, and I wrestled on the We Love Wrestling show. But the day before I wrestled, I went to the Tag League show, and the fans who not only were excited just to have wrestling and to have American wrestlers there, but were so excited, in fact, that they already had pre-made baseball cards and T-shirts and posters for the American wrestlers like myself, Steve Pena, JD Newman, O'Shea Edwards, to sign. They were there just as excited for their local talent as they were for the people who had flown to the other side of the world, who, in my humble experience, people locally don't appreciate American wrestlers as much as these German fans did. So that was exceptional. Again, working with WXW and being a part of their show, being able to be featured on Peacock because of the WWE's deal with WXW is breathtaking. And just overall, being able to immerse myself in a different culture where sponsors and fans are buying you drinks, buying you dinners, hotel taken care of, just because they really appreciate people putting their bodies on the line. And I don't know if that's shared here. I would say that's the biggest cultural difference between wrestling in Germany or elsewhere versus wrestling in the States, is just the appreciation that they have for superstars, for wrestlers putting at risk what they do.
People buying dinner?
Yes. Sponsors, fans were graciously buying us drinks and dinner.
Okay, so what are you eating in Germany?
I had some
Schnitzel?
No, I had bratwurst, which is
Sweet.
exceptional. I'd had schnitzel when I went to Vienna, but this was before I was wrestling full time. This was just taken.
No Vienna sausage?
Well, it's basically that. It's sausage. Which is good. But no, I had some bratwurst with some mashed potatoes and a couple of drinks. It was a great night. And when you're sharing company with the people I mentioned before, as well as like Ava Everett and Masha Slamovich and Oni Lorcan and Killian Dane, it was probably my most fulfilling trip I've ever taken in wrestling.
Does German beer hit different than American beer?
I do not know. I do not drink beer.
Oh, okay.
I had vodka. I had vodka in Germany, and that was nice. But I don't know if it was German vodka. It was vodka, and I drank it. And I'm not a big drinker. I don't typically drink often, but when there are fans out here who are, again, very graciously treating you, it's very rude to say no, guys.
No, I completely understand that. And of course, talking about vodka, then you probably have to go do a tour of Russia to compare.
Yeah, if there's some Russian wrestling, I would not say no.
I think you would have to ask Masha about that. She would probably know.
She would definitely know. I should get her ear next time I see her.
But the match you did have in Germany was against Eli Isom. Obviously a guy from Toronto and Manlife in a triple threat. What was
Yes,
that experience?
dude. Those guys are so talented. I mean, Eli Isom, he's wrestled. I know he's wrestled with AEW Dark. I know he's wrestled with Ring of Honor. But man like Jerett, oh my God, man like Jerett is talented. He's charismatic. He gets the people going. You know, the crowd with the 0121s out there in Britain. He wrestles for Progress. He wrestles for various companies out there in the UK and in other countries in Europe as well. There are not enough good things that I can say about those two guys as well. Like being able to come to a different country and do what I do best and collaborate with those two guys and make friends along the way. Like next time I go to UK, I know I'm gonna hit him up. And it goes both ways too. Like when he comes to the United States, he's gonna be able to hit me up anytime. I know Simon Miller from What Culture came to a Battle Club show and wrestled on a Battle Club show out here in Brooklyn. Guess what? Now he's a homie. So if I'm in the UK and I text Simon Miller, he's gonna hit me back. That's part of one of my favorite things in wrestling, which is just collaborating with people, meeting new people, forging these relationships that are very hard to build in any other industry.
Hello, this is Simon from What Culture, and this is a list of our 10 favorite guys.
Why? Here's why. That's my guy. Simon.
Why?
It's funny. I went up to him. And he was having a conversation, and I go, Simon, I'm sorry to interrupt, man, because he was with his little documentary team for his vlog. And I go to Simon and listen, man, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got to tell you something nobody else is going to tell you that I will. And he got worried. He was like, oh, I thought you were going to tell me to fuck off or something. I'm like, no, Simon, listen, man. I watch your content. Everybody else watches your content. We're all fans of wrestling, and I appreciate you being here. And that was it. I was just real nice to the guy. It lowered his guard, and we were just homies now. But he really thought I was there to go be rude to him, which made me laugh because he's a kind guy.
I think everybody has seen a What Culture video at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody in wrestling at some point has watched a Simon Miller wrestling video.
Right.
Um,
Steven, you have a question.
Yes. Now, I want to go back to your Instagram for a second because we do our research here, and we go through it.
Hell yeah!
Believe it or not, only the FBI has better skills than us.
And
I believe
it. Make an appearance tonight.
The first picture you ever posted on Instagram, at least as far as the Instagram I saw,
sure,
is a picture of you and your mother in a wedding dress. You in a tux, your mother in a wedding dress.
Sure.
I would love, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear the story about that. And I'm curious of why is that the first picture?
I will say that's not the first picture I've ever put up or anything. There are older posts that I've archived that didn't have either didn't have traction because I was still in high school or something, or they were part of my football background, which I don't post about as much. But that picture, that's a nice picture of me and my mom. She was getting remarried, and I was the one who brought her down the aisle, so we did a little photo shoot beforehand. That's really it. But lovely lady. I was just on the phone with her before I got on FaceTime with you guys. On the podcast with you guys. I was on FaceTime with my mom, and she's been super supportive of me and my wrestling and stuff. As nervous as she gets when I go and do dumb things in big spots and jumping off of ladders, doing backflips and all that crazy stuff, she's been very supportive of it. So that's my mom. That's my lady.
That's I love that, especially as somebody whose mother is learning to well, not learning, but trying to get the strength back in her legs after an almost near-death incident. So,
Sure, man. Yeah. Hey, best in recovery.
let's lighten the mood a little bit, shall we?
Sure.
Can you tell us about taking the Speedball Challenge?
I can tell you about winning the Speedball Challenge because that was a hell of an experience. And just coming off this conversation about Germany, that was the second time I met Mike Bailey. Speedball, I talk about the Vegas trip I took last year where me and JT Dunn really connected, but Vegas is where I met Speedball, and I had a couple Twitter interactions with him because he's very active on Twitter beforehand. But when I got a chance to meet him, and he had been talking about New York, I was like, hey, man, like, when you are in New York, like, I'll show you around, man. I'll send you a couple pizza locations to go or something like that, right? Because he's a nice guy, and he happens to be one of the best wrestlers in the goddamn world. So I meet Speedball, I chat him up a little bit. Fast forward to Germany, and he's there, and he's main eventing the show. To speak to the kindness of Mike Bailey, and I'm sure plenty of people have, I won't be the first, and I damn sure won't be the last. When I got to the back after my triple threat with Man Like Jerett and with Ison, Speedball was there at the monitor watching every single match. And he took about 20 minutes between intermission and his main event match to give us all feedback. He doesn't have to do that, right? He's not a promoter on the show. He's not an old guy who's just watching. He has his own matches and other, content and things to worry about. But he took the time. So as much as I really appreciated it, I made sure I let him know that, and we talked a little bit. And Speedball, just like JT Dunn, who is a guy that will champion me best he can and make sure that I am holding up my end of the bargain. So when I see Pro Wrestling Revolver, who again is owned by Sami Callihan, when I see Pro Wrestling Revolver posting about the Speedball Challenge, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for me to try and talk my way into a match. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell by now because we've been talking for a little while, but talking is a thing I'm very comfortable with. It's something I would even fancy myself pretty good at. So when I say to myself, you know what, I don't need to send the clip, I don't need to try to politic my way into a show, I'll just talk. And I know Speedball, so I can actually say something. Like, I actually have something to say here and make this a little bit personal. I was one of dozens, maybe even upwards of 100 people to try and reach out. So I reached out. I sent in my promo about, hey, Speedball, you've been really good to me. You've helped me get better, and now I want to show you how much better I've gotten. And he responded with a quote tweet about a pair of eyes, and that was it. And I took that a little offensively. Now, in retrospect, having spoken with him, he basically said, hey, I can't respond to everybody. There's going to be a lot of people. And I said, you know what, that's fair. But in the moment, I took it a little offensively, so I waited a little while, and I waited to see if he would respond or if Pro Wrestling Revolver would respond, and they didn't. Nobody did. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to sit on my hands and wait for somebody to out-talk me. I'm going to talk again. So I cut another promo, a follow-up, asking why he didn't respond. Maybe he was worried. Maybe he was worried he made me too good. Maybe he'd be a little afraid of what Jerett Diaz had become. I called him out. I asked him, I said, why would you play games with me? Why would you not respond to me? Is that what you think of me, that you can just leave me on red? So I cut that promo, I sent it in, and lo and behold, Sami Callihan messages me on Twitter 2 days before the show and says, hey, Diaz, we're going with you for the Revolver Speedball Challenge. How quickly can you get yourself to Dayton, Ohio? And I said, I will be there at the show. Don't you worry about that. I got myself to Dayton, Ohio, and I had the match. Having the match, coming out of the match, was an experience because Speedball does not play, man. That dude kicks like I've never been kicked before. Definitely had to work up to his level, but I held my own. I made sure that Sami Callihan knew who I was afterwards, and I earned some respect from everybody that day.
Well, That's incredible. That's a great story.
Yeah, absolutely,
Look, guys,
absolutely is.
nothing's gonna happen for you in this life if you don't try and make it happen for yourself. You know, I wanted to go work with WWE, so I moved to Florida. I wanted to wrestle Speedball, so I kept calling him out on Twitter. That's really all it is. For me, in my life, it is just a series of stories where I wanted something, and then I just figured out a way to make it happen. And that is combinations, strokes of luck, which are out of my hands, but also action that is always in my hands.
So what you're saying is that
hopefully
if I cut a promo on Mike Bailey, I could get him on for an interview.
I'm saying if you cut a promo on Mike Bailey, he'll see it, and that's the best you can hope for.
Yes.
Everything else after that, I don't know. But if you talk to him, he'll see it. Yeah, he's very active on Twitter. Call him out if you want. Just don't be surprised if he kicks you in the chest.
If I get the interview, he could kick me anywhere he wants.
That gives me hope for my Twitter feud with Corey Graves, and by Twitter feud, I mean I mentioned him and I get no response whatsoever, so it's all in my head.
I can't speak to Graves' ability to respond on Twitter. I don't know the guy. But if you're looking for an answer from Mike Speedball Bailey, just keep hitting him up and see what happens.
Interesting.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Yeah, James.
You had a few appearances on AEW Dark. The one that really caught my eye was the one against Jarett. Because it's not very often that two independent wrestlers get to be on AEW Dark against each other. What did that moment mean to you? To be, not just have, another enhancement talent against, whoever was on AEW, but just to go up against another indie guy.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, Jorah is very much on the radar for AEW. Like he's had plenty of showcases. He's worked with guys like Matt Hardy. He works with Rohit on the regular, who is also one of the guys that AEW has tagged as one of their independent people. The platform of AEW Dark as a whole, it makes you be at your best, right? This is a show that's watched by hundreds of thousands of people every week, and these opportunities on AEW Dark, they don't come easy. As many independent wrestlers as you may see, they really do not come easy. So it means a lot to me every time I get to go do something on AEW, whether that be having a match against Jorah Joel or running down the ramp to get dropped by Jade Cargill. Whatever it is, I'm game, because I ultimately understand in this industry that out of sight, out of mind. So the more they bring me in, the more I understand that they really do know who I am to some degree. Not to toot my own horn, I'm still losing on Dark, but they know who I am. So any opportunity like that is big. An opportunity to wrestle Jorah in a singles match where the guy knows that, hey, I'm just a dog trying to get mine too. It's great because it's an opportunity to raise each other up. And although I'm considered the enhancement talent in that match, he understands, like, hey, I did fly down for this. It is a few minutes, and I want to make it the best that I can be. So those opportunities are great. Jorah's fantastic to work with. Strong motherfucker, though. Dude will, he's thrown me around a number of times now, so I don't love mixing it up with guys that throw me around. I got to be honest.
And Max was at the Universal Studios. I believe that's where they used to record the old TNA days.
Correct. So you should see how the fans go nuts when a guy like Christopher Daniels hits the curtain.
Right. So, I mean, I'm a buildings guy, and I feel like that one is super underrated for how much great wrestling was in it. Is there any, moment where you're like, wow, I'm at where they used to do TNA?
You know, as much as I was a wrestling fan growing up, I wasn't a big TNA fan. So even though I was, I would see TNA. I was a big fan of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. I would laugh my ass off when Shark Boy or Curry Man were on my TV, right? But I also was a kid. I wasn't super into TNA. I didn't really grasp where it was or like have a major fandom for the company. Looking back, I do realize like it does hold some weight that I've been able to wrestle there on a number of occasions. I guess it's more a reverence for the company I'm wrestling for now.
And you also worked center of stage, another building with a lot of history. Um, does that does that mean something for you to work in another legendary building in pro wrestling?
I think that one set in a little bit better just because the legacy of WCW has been preached for so many years now that even though I didn't watch WCW when I was a little kid because it didn't exist by the time I was 6 years old, right? But having gone back and being able to watch WCW stuff, and again, its history, its legacy being preached over so many years, that definitely set in a little bit more with me. As somebody who I only wrestled there once, I would love to wrestle there again, but promotions don't really work there as frequently. But that building, you could feel that energy in there.
All right, Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Now, time to talk about your favorite item to get at the bodega. What is your favorite Arizona flavor?
Oh, the basic one, the lemon iced tea that I walked down to the ring with, the very same that I based my most recent pair of trunks on. That is my jam. I will say that I have a very specific bodega routine. I hit the bodega almost every day because I really live, it's not a gimmick. I really live in the Bronx. I really shop at bodegas a lot. And when I do, it's typically egg and cheese on a roll, salt, pepper, ketchup, no bacon. I don't eat bacon. But the egg and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup on a roll. I go for the Arizona. I'll either grab a banana or some Pop-Tarts just for a little extra sugar, typically the banana. And then I walk my silly ass back home because that's how I like to start my day.
I grew up on Arizona iced tea. So much so
it's my fuel. It's my fuel. I literally live off the thing.
So much so that I was having it back when it was still in boxes.
Huh.
Yeah. You used to get it in a juice box.
Yeah, I never had it that way. My typical is the 99-cent can.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally I'll go for the bottle, but I know they did just price it up to $125. That's probably my fault, but it's all right. And every once in a while, I'll see the gallon at a supermarket or at a gas station, depending on where I'm at. Sometimes I'll bring an Arizona gallon back home. It really is my favorite beverage. It's my bev.
And I'm sure you've done.
That you drink, or if it's not Arizona, you're not drinking it.
No. Like, I'm not a crazy person. I'll drink other drinks.
No, I mean other teas.
My primary. Oh yeah, I'll drink like a Brisk or a Nestle, but I prefer, or I'll even drink a peace tea if I have to, but personally not a big fan. But I'm always searching out the Arizona. If I hit a gas station on a show day and there's no Arizona, I'll hit another gas station. You know what I mean? Like, that's my bev.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a show day, because I got to go to the ring with one, which means I got to pick up at least one on the day.
Right, and you can't come out with another type of tea that's off-brand.
No, I'll come out to different flavors of Arizona, but I won't come out to a peace tea. I won't do it. Right. I refuse. I'd rather come out with nothing, or a honey bun or something else you can find in a bodega.
And yeah, I'm sure you've learned the CVS exploit when they have Arizona Tall Boys on sale. When it's 3 for $2.22, and each one you buy after that is basically free.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question, which is probably going to have a very simple answer. Arizona is now entering into or they are already in the alcoholic beverage market. So now, any chance you may accidentally grab one and end up giving it to let's say Stunt Granny in the front row?
I mean, ideally not. Look, I try not to give my bevs away. It is rare. For example, when I first wrestled in St. Helena's in the Bronx for the first time, I did pick up a few extra Arizonas to give them up. I think I'd know the difference if I were handing out alcoholic beverages versus regular iced teas. I would hope I know the difference.
Well,
but in the event that I pick up Arizonas that are the hard way, I'll make sure not to give them out. I'll just take them home and drink them at my own pleasure.
I will say this: they do look identical.
Well, then I'm prepared to get myself in trouble.
Oh man! All right. Yeah. All right, James.
That's a great segue to our next segment. Jerett Diaz's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes down the roads and weird, crazy, bizarre things have bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
I wish I could. I didn't hear any of the description.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind repeating.
Yeah.
Just because you were getting a little bit scratchy there.
Could you tell us a road story that is crazy, weird, bizarre, or funny?
Road story. Let me see if I got one in the can ready to roll. Road story. Oh, you know what? I do. So I was living in New York. Sorry, I was living in Florida, but I was still wrestling in New York. Let me rephrase. I got distracted. I was living and wrestling in Florida. My vehicle was still registered in New York. Why? Because I was a college student. So I get an email from the DMV in New York saying, "Hey, you've got to get your car re-inspected. It's been a year, and you need the inspection on your car." I say, "Sure, no problem." I bring it to an AutoZone. I get it inspected. I send the paperwork over. New York State says, "Hey, that doesn't count. You got to get it done in New York." I say, "Cool. How long do I have to do this?" They said 2 days, and I said, "Awesome." So I then got in the car at approximately 6 a.m. on a Monday, drove 21 straight hours outside of gas stops straight to New York, made it home by about 6 p.m. You consider the time of stoppages and some traffic in New Jersey. Made it home, went to sleep. Woke up the next morning at 7 a.m. That's a Tuesday. Got my car inspected. That took a while because there were other people there. By the time I left New York, it was about 11. I then turned directly back down to Florida. Drove all the way down to Orlando, another 20 hours or so. Took a brief nap in Orlando before hopping in a car with some buddies of mine. Drove from Orlando to Tampa, that's another 2 hours. Wrestled 2 matches. They were both awful. I was dying. I almost crashed in Georgia, by the way, got pulled over. That wasn't fun. Made it back to Orlando the next morning, and went to class at 7 a.m. on a Thursday. So from Monday to Thursday morning, I drove over 42 hours. I would say like 46 or 47 hours total. Had 2 matches and nearly died. After accomplishing that, gentlemen, I realized I can do anything. Because I should not have made it.
That is, I tip my hat to you. That is definitely impressive. I don't think I would be able to go that long.
I shouldn't have either. But I had to handle business. Had to get my car inspected. I don't cancel shows if I can help it. So I made it work.
That is awesome. Another incredibly awesome thing you did was train with Tetsuya Shibata. Can you tell us about, training with one of the all-time greats?
Oh my God! So training with Shibata was exceptional. I mean, so for the full disclosure of the LA Dojo, the way that it was working at the time, um, it was Carl Fredericks, who recently debuted with NXT, with WWE.
Yep.
Eddie Thorpe, I believe, is the name.
Yep, Eddie Thorpe.
Yep. Clark Connors and Hiroshi Goto was guest training there as he was about to get back in the ring with New Japan.
Okay.
So the three of them were very hands-on, while Shibata oversaw everything. And when I tell you he oversaw everything, I mean he did not take a moment to do anything but watch us work. And 4 days at the New Japan LA Dojo were the 4 hardest days in my entire wrestling career over the last 4.5 years. I think they were trying to kill us. They were probably trying to kill us. If not just intense torture, they put us through some of the workouts that they themselves were going through as dojo young boys, young lions, preferably, and it was intense. It was intense, but I also, I met some really good people, some people that I ended up linking up with, and I was able to stay in touch with Connors and Eddie Thorpe as well. But Shibata, he just has this looming presence. Like, he's a nice guy, but he's very quiet. Obviously, there is a bit of a language barrier, but he did speak enough English to be able to help us get better, and that was really the main goal for him, was just to get us all better in a few days. And they did change how I do some things. They cleaned up my rope running. They cleaned up how I was taking judo bumps. Like, it's a very intense week with those guys, but an experience that I would not change for the world. And it was also the first time I went to LA for a wrestling purpose. So it was definitely a little bit of a level up. It was a little bit of an evolution for me because of what it turned out to be afterwards.
Were you able to speak with him one-on-one, or was it always just him talking to the whole class?
Only briefly with Shibata. I was, I just got a chance to thank him for having me and for taking the time to teach us as best he could. And he was very gracious. He was humbled throughout, with as many people that were there to get better, and thanking him throughout the camp. This is a guy who most of us thought he would never wrestle again.
Oh yeah.
Or really be able to even be active in the industry again. So just taking the time to work with us, let alone teach us as much as he did, was incredible.
Are we moving on to the colossal question?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Let's say they are making a movie about Jerett Diaz's wrestling career. A blockbuster. A huge studio is going to make a movie about your wrestling career. Every blockbuster movie has a blockbuster soundtrack to go with it. What would be 3 to 5 songs that appear on the Jerett Diaz soundtrack, the wrestling career movie soundtrack? There we go.
That's a great question. I like that question. I was expecting the who should play you in a movie question, I'll be honest with you guys. And I would have just said me. Like, I don't know if you've seen Rocky, but he wrote and starred in his own damn thing. So it would have been me. But I like this question better. I really do. Who would be on this? Who would be on it? Or what songs? It's a great question. Who would be on it? What type of songs? I think that the song that has gotten me through so many workouts in this lifetime, not even just in wrestling, in this lifetime, is Till I Collapse by Eminem. That is just, what a banger. What a banger that dude put out in 05, 06. Like, Till I Collapse is definitely on it.
Right.
I'd love to have some Childish Gambino on it. I think his vibe is very relatable. It's very, like, down to earth when you come down to some of his later albums. I think of, like, Redbone, for an example. Even if, like, the movie was the song was initially used in Get Out, which is a horror movie, but, like, That song is so chill. Um, I don't know. I think I'd be less about specific tracks and more about artists. Like if I have my ability to put a compilation album together for my movie, man, Lin-Manuel Miranda's got to be on it. The dude from the Heights who is Puerto Rican like myself, and like the ability, the songwriting and rapping ability that guy has is on another level.
Anthony Ramos, I actually was going to ask you, has anyone ever mistaken you for Anthony Ramos?
I wish, man. The guy's crazy talented. No, I haven't. I haven't been told I look like him, but I have genuinely been told that we have a similar vibe, and I take that as a compliment because he's got a good vibe, right? When you see like In the Heights, you buy him, you believe him as a star of a film, especially about Puerto Rican immigrants and people in New York City, In the Heights, like in Washington Heights. So I vibe with that, right? Let's keep it to the music as best I can. I gotta have Eminem. I gotta have Gambino. I gotta have Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm just a hip hop head till I die, and those are three of my people.
And those are two solid picks, definitely. All right, Scudo, part 2.
James, you're going in and out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right, those are 3 solid picks. Scudo, part 2.
All right. So you caught us. Now we're asking you, who would play Jarett?
Boo!
Wait.
Come on, man.
Wait for it.
Okay.
Who would play Jerett Diaz in the Jerett Diaz Wrestling Career movie? And we have this rule established for everybody, and you cannot say yourself because you are obliged to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Okay, so I have to be in the movie, but I cannot play myself.
Exactly.
That assumes that I can pick anybody be in this movie?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, then it's not going to be a very fun pick, but I'm all about bringing minds with me. So if there was a blockbuster movie starring me, I would have to have my cousin Sam DeLeon, who's a very talented local actor, playing me. He's my cousin. I need us all to eat. That is always how I've seen success in this world, is that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So I'm bringing minds with me. So my cousin Sam DeLeon would play me in the movie.
I absolutely love that choice.
Thank you. It's not very fun, no A-listers out here, but listen, I do what I can for mines.
But that does beg the question, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people in your movie, and who would play them?
Oh, see, here's where you get to stack up the crowd, right? So, like, because my character is being played by effectively a no-name in the industry, now I get big A-listers to stack up the supporting cast, right? So my dad's getting played by The Rock, obviously.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys saw my dad on my Instagram. He's about 5'8", but he is black, bald, and jacked. So The Rock is gonna play my dad.
Sweet.
And to that same token, my mom, Salma Hayek, Hispanic lady, looks younger than she is. Salma Hayek's gonna play my mom, or J-Lo, one of them two is gonna play my mom. And I would say if I needed somebody else in the movie to be in a supporting role, probably my sister. I would make sure my sister was portrayed in the film. And because The Rock and Salma Hayek are playing my parents, evidently, Zendaya could be my sister, and that's fine. She's young enough to pull it off.
This sounds like an awesome movie.
It's a star-studded movie, right? You got to bring all the big names in for the no-name actor playing the star.
Oh, yeah. And you could pre-order the tickets now.
From where?
We will start a page.
Sure. We'll start a GoFundMe. We'll start a Kickstarter for my movie.
There you go. Hey, is there any significance to your Superman tattoo?
There is significance to my Superman tattoo. So my dad has the same tattoo. He got it when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and he has it on the back of his neck. So when I was coming out of high school and I wanted to get a tattoo, and I'd wanted one for a couple years, my dad always told me, like, hey, when you're ready, when you really decide what you want, I'll take you to get it, no problem. Right? My dad has a bunch of tattoos himself. So I had these ideas, but nothing was really sticking, nothing I was really committing to. And then when I was coming out of high school, my dad got this like major neck surgery that, doctor said, hey, he may not ever fully recover from this. We're looking at like a 60% chance full recovery. There's a very good chance that this man will not be the same after this. When I tell you that my dad 3 months later was in the gym running his business as he normally was, remarkable, incredible recovery, right? So when that happened, when he got this neck surgery done, I got the matching tattoo on my chest.
That is an incredible story.
See, I love the story. I love the story. I love the tattoo. But without the story, the tattoo just comes off tacky. It comes off cheesy. And I get that because I hear it far more often than I probably should. But I don't really brush it off. Like, it doesn't really bother me because I know the story. And anybody who asks, I'm happy to tell them. But you got to ask for it.
And that's why I asked. Oh.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
And now people know. Alright, can you tell us about inner thoughts during a match?
Inner thoughts during a match. Are you referring to the reel, the TikTok that I made, or are you actually asking me about my thoughts about my matches?
No, the TikTok.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it was just a trend that was happening on TikTok that I hopped on, where it's like my inner thoughts doing whatever activity, and it was more subtle stuff like, oh, my inner thoughts while I'm on a train, or my inner thoughts while I'm doing my makeup, and that's all cool, that's all fine, right? But I'm watching these things and I'm like, I have a lot of thoughts. Like, I genuinely have a lot of thoughts while I wrestle, and so let me watch this match back and just try to reflect to the best of my ability. What am I thinking during these matches, right? And sometimes it's about spots or moments, but often I'm very much living in that moment because what we do in the ring, or what we've discussed in the ring, I don't know how much we're peeling the curtain back here, but like, I've committed it to memory. I'm very comfortable doing the things that we do in terms of like the physicality. So I get to almost sit comfortably in my thoughts while I wrestle. So I can think about like, oh, this is about to hurt, or oh, that was a cool move. Like, I'm going to learn that when I get out of here, or I'm going to ask him about this thing, or like, oh, this hurts. Ah, ow, ow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still a human being, even though I'm a performer. So like, these are every single thought that I had that I wrote down on that TikTok, very real thoughts that I've had multiple times while I wrestle.
So you thought, why am I running?
Yeah, because you know what? Sometimes there are things in wrestling that are just a little silly. They really are. And hitting the ropes, as intense as they can be or as effective as they can be, sometimes when you're just running in the ring, it's a little dumb. And that's not lost on me, even though I do it every week.
I don't know why that spot just made me laugh so much.
Well, that's the intention, right? It's to bring a little bit of levity, bring a little bit of humor to what I do, because effectively we're getting half naked and fake fighting for money in front of a few people. It's a silly job. It's a silly job that I have here, and I love it, and I take it seriously when it needs to be taken seriously. But we're not changing lives here. We're not lives are not being saved in the ring. We're not doctors. We're not police officers or lawyers. It's not effectively super high stakes. So let's have some fun with it, no?
Hey, if I learned anything with pro wrestling, it's that you never know who's watching or how you touch somebody with what you do.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a, and I think every wrestler to some degree is an example of that.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Now, hindsight being 2020. Should you have let Alex Kane join Rapture?
Oh yes, absolutely. Alex Kane is incredibly talented, and the next time I see him, I will tell him how much we regret it. Now, so the Rapture was an interesting group because we truly were three best friends, and we're doing everything together. And Lexi was also very, very close with us, even though she on her own time decided to leave the group. The three of us guys, Jay, Rich, and I, have been incredibly close for the entirety of my time in wrestling. These are three guys that I started training with shortly after they had been wrestling and trained together. So, to be welcomed into that group was very special. To forge friendships, genuine lifelong friendships with these guys, is something that I'm ever grateful for. So it is difficult to bring on a new member, and I think that showed in our later time in the Rapture, where we brought on a manager, we brought on DeMarcus Cutler. In our time with ACW, there were a lot of other pieces that started to move with the Rapture. But ultimately, Alex Kane, incredibly talented. I'm so proud of him. He's doing nothing but great things. He probably should have been let in. That's on me. I'll take the L for that. I was the one saying no to people. That's my bad. Now that's a deep cut, by the way. Good research there, guys.
Oh my god, that's Alex Kane. I'm still saying no to him. Wow.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Alright. Onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Disgusting, horrific, inhumane, and a crime against humanity. And I won't have it. As best I can help it, I will not allow it.
Wow, a crime.
I know, super strong take. But if I see anybody eating pizza with pineapple on it, I will slap it out of their hands with no hesitation. You could be a perfect stranger to me. You could be a perfect stranger to me. I do not care. I will slap pineapple pizza right out your hand and onto the floor and shame you for eating it because it doesn't belong. It never belonged.
Wow, that's a very strong thing.
I said what I said, guys.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
My spirit Pokemon? It's a super basic question, and super basic answer, and the reason being is because I wasn't a huge Pokemon fan, but I do have a Pikachu pillow and a Pikachu Funko Pop, and the best video game movie currently out, at least until I see the Mario movie, is Detective Pikachu. So, yeah, Pikachu, that's my guy. I wasn't allowed to play the Pokemon games when I was a kid, so I didn't really get into it as much as I would like have to.
You wasn't allowed to?
I was not allowed to. I had a Game Boy, but it was often kept from me to make sure I did my homework because I was the kid who didn't do their homework.
Who too?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was self-inflicted. Self-inflicted punishment.
And Detective Pikachu, super underrated movie, honestly.
It's solid. Look, video game movies have been real hard to execute. I think Sonic was cool too. I was one of few that didn't hate Assassin's Creed, but I haven't seen Mario.
On me.
I haven't seen Mario yet, so until then, Detective Pikachu is the best video game movie out.
All right.
That's my opinion.
Of course, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for THUG? THUG.
The acronym for thug? I can't say I do.
Good.
T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is for ugly. And G is for jail. Because a thug can't spell.
That is dumb. I like it.
We absolutely love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive.
Hey, shout out to you. I like the thug bit. I think you should do it every podcast.
We do.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Love Tracy trying to, again, keep the memory alive on the show. If you didn't
Sure.
know,
I have the book. If you don't buy this book, everybody dies. I have it sitting on my shelf. I have not read it yet. I'm just finishing the Mox book. And then I have Trevor Noah's book to read after that. But then I'm going to be reading Tracy Smothers' book.
and I'm sure there's a lot of great gems of wrestling knowledge in it for sure.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I can't wait to read it. I've already been able to really dive into Mox's book. So Tracy's Mothers, I'm sure, will be fantastic as well.
And the weirdest question you ever be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully, would you ever consider wrestling a rap? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country,
Would I ever consider wrestling a? I'm sorry.
a rap.
Would
Scooter, you want to clear that up for me?
Yeah. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual rock.
An inanimate rock.
An inanimate rock.
I gotta go with no. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna be wrestling a rock, guys. At least anytime soon. I'd be more likely to wrestle a broom or one of those inflatable dolls or a child. Basically, anything that Kenny Omega's done is something I'm interested in doing. But like an actual rock, not so much, guys.
Well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes in a man match. An on-man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good on that. I think I'm good.
Alright. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Seriously, in 5 years, I see myself wrestling for a major company on television. I have no qualms. I have no qualms saying that I don't have a favorite. I've worked with WWE in a broadcasting and production sense. I've worked for AEW in an AEW dark sense. And my ultimate goal from day one of this has been to wrestle for a contract. So I want wrestling to be my living, to where I don't have to have another job, and I want to wrestle on a television broadcast. That's the goal. So in 5 years, I, without a doubt in my mind, at the age of 32, will be wrestling on a television contract for one of the 3 major companies in the world.
The 3 being WWE, AEW, and New Japan?
You got it.
Okay, yeah.
And that's not to say Impact is not as well, but most Impact wrestlers also do indies, and that's just not something that in 5 years from now that I'm trying to do.
Right. Alright. And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that shows off what Jerett Diaz is all about?
Oh, my man, you guys brought it up at the top of the show. It's Jerett Diaz versus JT Dunn from Chaotic Wrestling. You can catch it on my YouTube channel at The Jerett Diaz Show. I believe it's on YouTube elsewhere as well. I'm not entirely sure about that. It might be on JT Dunn's channel, but it's definitely on mine. So Jerett Diaz versus JT Dunn would be the match I would send anybody if you want to find out exactly who I am.
And you don't have to look for it. I will grab that match from YouTube and put the link to it in the description of the video below or on YouTube and Castbox. For anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Fantastic.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of Google.
Oh boy. All right.
This is our speed round or bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I am ready, guys.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler.
And you can't say yourself.
James Ellsworth.
Your main event in WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Richard King.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
James, again, you're going in and out.
If you could come
I
out...
believe the question was if I could come out to anybody else's entrance music that isn't mine.
Yes.
Yes.
Undisputed Eras.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're watching right now.
What I will be watching later.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Unnecessary. I may be wrong. I may be wrong about that. I just think we need. I think we need to peel the curtain back just a little bit more.
We also would have accepted is quite good on toast.
Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Squash is a 2-minute match, guys. I think it's a vegetable. I think it's a vegetable.
It's a fruit.
All right. Well, I'm not a botanist. I don't know about plants and fruits, man. What do you want from me?
It's a tomato logic.
Okay. Well, then I guess it's a fruit.
New Japan wrestler Tai Chi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question: what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Well, for me, I like to believe that the more naked you are, the more fun you're having. So sometimes I wear bikers, but every time I order a new pair of bikers, I remind them, hey, make it the Dolph Ziggler cut. Show the V on the abs and take it just a little too high to where the back of my butt sticks out just a little bit. Now, if you're Finn Balor, your ass is out. So, either way, to each their own, I say.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Have you ever had a conversation in the supermarket about Darby Allin?
With a stranger, yes.
With a stranger? No. I can't say I have. No shade on Darby. I like Darby. I met him at Evolve at AEW a number of times, but I've never spoken about AEW superstar Darby Allin at a supermarket with a stranger. Can't say I have.
And that is the correct answer.
Why is that a question? if I could be so bold to ask.
Long story short, when AEW first started, my other co-host, Kaliko Yachi, was having an argument with some AEW fans. And he said, if I go into a supermarket, nobody will know who Darby Allin is.
Okay, but to be fair, if I go into a supermarket and I talk about Omos or Braun Strowman, most people won't know who that is either. And they're enormous.
Yeah, but I've had conversations about Triple H and John Cena in the supermarket.
Oh, sure, but would you argue that Darby Allin should be on a conversational level of a John Cena, guy who's been in movies? Also, why are you talking to strangers in the supermarket? Mind your business. Don't talk to people in the supermarket. Don't do that. Don't be that guy.
So to put that story, we afterwards decided to actually film ourselves going into markets and asking random strangers, "Do you know who Darby Allin is?" Nobody did. And then when we started doing interviews, obviously it became a question.
Okay, valid. I think that's pretty funny. I think that's a funny bit. But listen, man, don't shade on Darby Allin. Dude is alright. Dude's cool.
We've had guests in the past that have had conversations about Darby Allin in a supermarket. It is becoming.
Why are people talking to strangers in supermarkets? Look, James, listen. I'm born and raised in the Bronx. Where I come from, you don't talk to strangers in the supermarket. You mind your business. You tell a deli guy what you want. You pay for it and you leave. So I don't know. Listen, I don't know who you're talking to these days, but they got to figure it out.
Of course, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find all things Jerett Diaz?
You can find Jerett Diaz on TikTok at Jerett Diaz. You can find me primarily on Instagram at the Jerett Diaz and on Twitter at the Jerett Diaz. You can also catch me in Vegas the 25th to the 28th at FSW's Full Tilt 2.
And merchandise, obviously.
Merchandise at Fully Gimmicked, or just hit me up on social and talk to me about my newest line of shirts and 8x10s.
Alright, and will we find the code for the briefcase in your social media as well?
The code for the briefcase is a secret. You gotta guess the brief. You gotta guess the code to see what's inside.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, guys.
But that's a combination I have in my luggage.
Well, then you shouldn't be telling people that.
Of course, you don't have to type it into your Google machine. All of Jared's social media links will be in the description of the video below. Go on YouTube text box. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
No excuse. No excuse at all. Buy me a shirt. Buy a shirt from me, too. Buy me a shirt and then buy one of my shirts.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment on YouTube and stuff. Of course, this is sponsored by Rose Energy and Oil Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Rose. And follow us at Wrestling with Eva on Twitter and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. You can follow me personally at JamesG993. Where can we find Scooter?
As always, you can find me hiding under your bed on Twitter at ScooterDust. Keep an eye out to the social medias for any updates on the hiatus of the remix. And of course, revel in all my Twitch antics along with Rico Constantino Jr. and the rest of the Smoking Dragons clan, twitch.tv/Smoking Dragons.
Now, Jared, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
No problem.
For always special guest Jerett Diaz, Khalifa Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.